Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pops Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Walker Garrett, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large Counselor. Connie Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 24th meeting of the City Council. It's Tuesday. It's voting day. So if you're at home or you're live streaming this, you guys need to get up and go out and vote at your home precinct. They'll be open until 7 p.m. So just because it's a runoff and just because it's summer, we can't let your civic duty slide. So get out there and vote, and we appreciate all of you all for doing so. We appreciate you all for being here today. We have a not too full agenda, but I'm sure we can fill up the airwaves and the time. We'll see how it goes. So we want to make sure we start off with prayer. We're going to call forward Pastor Brian McDonald with Grace Baptist Church. He's going to bring the invocation this evening consistent with his faith tradition. Good evening.
Good evening. Let's pray. Yes. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for the wonderful blessings you have given to us. Lord, we're so thankful for our city council that sits here before us. Lord, we're thankful for our first responders here in the Columbus area and the surrounding areas, and Lord, for the wonderful job that they do. And God, we certainly need your wisdom. You have told us that if any of us lack wisdom, we can ask of you, and you'll give it. And Lord, we pray for wisdom from on high, a wisdom that is pure for our city council members as they discuss and make decisions this evening, as they review paperwork, and as they converse about different things. Lord, I pray that your wisdom would be upon them. And Lord, we are so thankful for all that you have done for us. I thank you for their service to our city. And Lord, I thank you for Columbus, Georgia. We love you. We thank you for all you've done for us. In Jesus' wonderful name we pray these things. Amen.
Amen. Pastor McDonald, thank you so much for your faithful encouragement. We greatly appreciate it. And we have some more community volunteers that are going to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. So we want to call forward the 4th Street Daycare and Academy. We have 2 young ladies who are going to help us out. You all come forward. Don't be shy. They were all ready to go. By the way, they were sitting in the mayor's chair when I walked in this evening. They were just testing it out for size. If you all would stand and prepare for them to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was excellent. Thank you all. Now don't go anywhere. I want you to introduce yourself and tell us how old you are.
Hi, I'm Kamaria. I am 7 years old. I go to 4th Street Daycare, and then my real school is Downtown Elementary.
Oh, great. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kylie. I'm 5. I go to 4th Street Daycare with my sister, and I go to downtown.
Oh, that's excellent. Great, great, great. And I think your mom and dad are here with you today, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yes. You all want to say, and you've got some helpers here too, and your little brother. You all stand up. All those in support of these young ladies, stand up. Well, you guys come back and help us out again real soon. Will you do that? Okay, and I'll keep this chair warm for you for a couple more years, all right? Okay, thank you all. Okay, we have minutes for the approval of council, minutes from the June 12th and June 19th executive sessions, as well as minutes from the July 10th meeting of Columbus City Council. We've got a motion for approval. Is there a second? Okay. Were there any corrections or additions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please state aye. Okay, and that concludes the mayor's agenda, so we'll turn it over to our city attorney, Mr. Fay. Can you hit your light, Mr. Fay?
Got it.
Oh, for some reason. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a number of business items, including some public hearings, but first we need a few votes. The first item up is the ordinance for the levy of the school district millage, and it's ready for adoption.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? All right, seeing none, you all may record your votes electronically. Let's see here, my system's not working, so I can count those real fast. It looks like
It's passed.
it passes. Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, they can work on that. While they're working on that, we'll call up number 2. This is the second reading for demolition of various structures discussed previously.
Okay, we've got, we've got a motion and second. We've got a motion. Did we have a second? We have a second for an ordinance to approve an ordinance providing for the demolition of various structures previously provided to council. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please record your votes electronically. Okay, and it does pass.
That passes. Next item is an ordinance to allow parking enforcement for the parking lot of the annex on 10th Street. So ready for adoption.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
All right, number 4, this is an advertised public hearing for readoption and amendment of the noise ordinance of Columbus, Georgia. The General Assembly passed some legislation last year in order to regulate consumer fireworks and the times that they can be ignited. You have to look at your whole noise ordinance in a comprehensive fashion and regulate all noise sources in the same manner, and that's what this ordinance does. If you look at about the 4th page of the ordinance, you'll see that consumer fireworks are now subsection little p, and the time for ignition is between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. You cannot go past 10 p.m. If we didn't pass this ordinance, people could shoot on days that are not holidays all the way until midnight.
Shoot fireworks.
Consumer fireworks, right. And so this is going to cut them off at 10 o'clock unless it's the holiday specified, which are 4th of July, 3rd of July, December 31. You can go till 1 a.m. If there are any questions about the noise provisions in general, we'll try to answer them.
We've got Councilor Woodson.
I'm sorry, Clifton, I couldn't hear you very clearly. That's with the exception of like the 4th of July and New Year's, correct?
Correct. They can, on those days, you can go until 11:59 p.m. with fireworks, and on January 1, you can go until 1 a.m.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Okay.
all right, anybody in the audience want to comment on this because it is a required public hearing? Any other questions? If not, we'll bring it back. You want to bring this on the consent agenda, Mr. City Manager, if that's all right? Okay. Bring it back next week for a vote. The next hearing, Mayor, is an ordinance amending the UDO. This would add a variance provision pertaining to single entrance subdivisions. is recommended for approval by the Planning Advisory Commission and the Planning Department. I think Mr. Mize and some other interested parties are here, but if there are any questions around the table, we'll get to those now. Rick, why don't you, Mr. Jones, if you could come over and
Yeah.
give a brief synopsis.
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is a proposed ordinance to allow for an amendment process for those subdivisions that have 99 lots or more and only have one entranceway into that subdivision. The UDO now requires that if you have more than 99 lots, 100 lots or more, you need to have at least two ways in and out of that subdivision. Primarily, it's a safety concern, a public safety concern more than anything else. When we get emergency vehicles in, especially if they have to go into a long cul-de-sac or roadway and find out they have to turn around and go back out that same way. Or if something happens to that main entrance, you can't get in and out of that subdivision, that causes some concern as well. What has been requested of us is to provide at least for an appeal process before this council, that when a developer comes in and has something along these lines, that he has more than 99 lots, but can only provide one way in, one way out, he's asking for some kind of appeal or some kind of process that will allow him to at least present his case and let council make that determination of whether that's acceptable or not. That's what the primary purpose of this amendment does. It does establish the fact that we have to go through a process now, whereas there not only the planning department's involved, but mainly Department of Engineering, Public Works, Police, Fire, and so forth, have to review this request and make a recommendation back to this body for making a final determination on that. And then you make that final call once it's said and done. We've had situations in recent times where that has been an issue, but our concern has always been making sure that we can get in and out of a subdivision easily and safely when it's all said and done. So, Madam Mayor, that's the reasoning behind this proposed amendment to the UDO.
Okay. All right, Councilor Davis.
Director Jones, I think a while back we passed an ordinance. I think Councilor Henderson back then brought it to our attention, and we passed an ordinance where I guess a developer or any applicant could come to this council and present their case, request a variance or a hardship on a variance on a hardship matter in this type of situation. Is there a difference here? Or
Yes, there is.
I thought we already have something on the books.
You may recall the one we had in previous was dealing with actually the length of the street, the stubbing of it, whether you had to put a cul-de-sac at the other end of that roadway. Typically, we try to make connection between property that's being developed and has potential to be developed so that we can have a way in and out again with that. That was there from the appeal process. It was made exclusively just for that action, and that we've already handled a case in front of the council for that very purpose. This is different in the sense that it allows an appeal process for the 99 lot provision, and it's separate from the other one altogether.
I got you. Thank you.
Yes. All done? Here we go.
Clarification, as Director Jones indicated, the ordinance prohibited, and the city engineer basically made the decision. It was the decision rests with the city engineer, and the developer appealed here at council, and we got all parties together in a similar way that is described now in the ordinance. And when all parties got together, put their heads together, they figured out how to make it work, and then you passed it. And so there was no ordinance allowing this. You didn't pass one in recent time. And so this will officially put that appeals process in place, that applicant, that developer will know what they've got to do, and before they got on public agenda, and that's how it got before you.
that good, Counselor Davis?
Okay. Any other questions around the table? And
Not at this time.
see if anybody in the audience wants to comment.
Are you commenting on 6801?
No, sir, not at this time. We'll call that in a minute.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, this is the single entrance subdivision amendment, and with no other questions, we'll bring this back, Mr. City Manager, next week on the consent agenda. Next item up, Mayor, is a rezoning of property at 4603 17th Avenue. Proposed use, general commercial, parking lot and building expansion. It's recommended for approval. Gene Ross, applicant, are they here tonight? Okay, Ms. Ross is here. Let's see if there's anybody in the audience opposed, and we may limit our comments. Anybody in the audience want to be heard on this, either way? Okay, any questions around the table?
Doesn't look so
All
at this
right,
time.
we'll bring this back next week, Ms. Ross, for a vote at a 9 a.m. work session and consent agenda meeting. But it'll be on the agenda next week, next Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor, the next zoning is one that's been discussed previously. This is part of a tax allocation district, but this is a zoning of land known as Midland Commons, 6801 Flat Rock Road. The proposed zoning is planned mixed-use development for lodging, residential, assisted living, and retail. It is recommended approval by Planning Advisory Commission and the Planning Department. I believe the applicants are here. So let's see if we got any questions. Mr. Whiteman, you want to come on? Mr. Mize is here. All right. Any questions from council?
Not at this time.
All right. Well, we do have at least one gentleman that wants to comment. Mr. Mize, you want to say something first before we get to any questions or opposition?
Yes.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, wait just a minute, sir. We're going to let the applicant go first and make a brief statement, and then anybody else can come up.
Thank you, Clifton. My name is George Mize. I'm with the law firm of Page Cranham. I'm here today representing your applicant and the developer, JMC Flat Rock Developers. It's a local company comprised or owned by 3 local developers, Jack Wright, Marty Flournoy, and Chris Whiteman. Of course, they've been in the Columbus area for many years, and they've done many developments in this particular area. They've been longtime residents of this area, and they'll be here long after this development is done. They have a genuine interest in the people of Columbus and in Columbus itself, and they have a heart for and a long history of taking care of mom and pop businesses. Jack, Marty, and Chris are all here with us today. The primary engineer on the project is Mass Engineering and Consulting out of Atlanta, Georgia. They service clients all over the United States. The principals have a combined experience of over 60 years. They specialize in master design and plans of large projects that consist of projects that are 50 acres or more. And they currently have active projects in 33 of the 50 states. And here with me on behalf of Mass Engineering is Mr. Nick Salka. Also with us today is our traffic engineer, Mr. Abdul Amir with A&R Engineering out of Marietta. Abdul has decades of experience in this area, having worked with dozens of cities throughout this region, including Columbus. The first slide I want to show you is kind of our site plan to give you an idea of what we're proposing to do and what the proposed layout will be on the property. But today we're seeking to rezone, or actually downzone, about 90 acres of land, which is the old former Swift Textile site. We're going to go from a substantially LMI and SFR1 to Planned Mixed Use Development, or PMUD. And as you can see, the vast majority of the property is already zoned or is zoned LMI, and there's only a very small portion on the very tip that is zoned SFR1. But the combination of those two, we're going to propose to go to PMUD. Our zoning request was unanimously approved by PAC, and it's also approved by your planning department with conditions. But the proposed development is certainly consistent and compatible with surrounding land uses. If you take a look at the next photo, that's a picture of the Walmart, Gateway Walmart development to the south and southwest, together with its 8 out parcels, which include car wash, gas station, IHOP, title pawn, retail strip center, Also to the north, the northeast, and to the east and southeast, you've got additional general commercial development. This is the one across the northeast. You've got a gas station, a McDonald's, a Goodwill retail store, Tractor Supply, and then on the eastern side, this is what you call, I guess, the Kitten Lake development. You've got in the foreground there, you've got Chick-fil-A, you've got a Zaxby's, you've got other restaurants, you've got other retail options, and directly across the street from that, next, okay, directly across the street from that, you've got additional retail options. You see in the foreground there an AutoZone, and on both sides of this road and on both sides, or the east side of Manchester Expressway, you have substantial amounts of multifamily housing. In addition, the 2028 comprehensive plan clearly calls for this property to be used for mixed use, and that's precisely what we're proposing to do today. The next slide is what's known as the bubble plan, but it just gives you an idea in this early stages of planning what the developer has in mind. Beginning on the left side and working to the right, the light blue is really going to be just a mixed-use retail lot of about 19 acres. To the right of that, and in green, is the mixed-use lot. It's about 22 acres. This is being referred to by the developer as the Lifestyle Center, and this is what really excites the developer. And what they're proposing to do is enable the residents of the development to live, work, and play all in the same place. And to the right of that, in the yellow, is assisted living. What's proposed there is assisted living units for senior citizens, which is certainly a much-needed use considering the aging population. And what the plan is to phase in approximately 200 units of assisted living units. And back to the left and in darker blue is the retail and restaurant outlot for about 13 acres. To the right of that in pink is the grocery anchor and retail lot, and to the right of that in light gray is the park parcel, which ultimately we hope becomes part of the Rails to Trails walking and biking trail. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to tell you guys who we're talking to or who's committed to come to locate in Midland Commons. But we've had good and fruitful conversations with a number of retailers, including local, regional, and national restaurants, clothing retailers, sporting good retailers, dental and medical service providers, et cetera. And this will be a very attractive development, certainly better than what's out there today. If you take a look at this next slide, this is a picture of what's out there today. And what you're really looking at is a parking lot, which is overgrown, and the remnants of a slab of a 500,000+ square foot industrial building. But we plan to go from what's there today to something like what these renderings will look like. And I think you will agree that this is a much better improvement over what's out there today. Well, with regard to density, we worked hard with the planning department, and the planning department's worked hard with us, and I think this has been a process well over a year in the making. And the planning department's done an excellent job of working through this with us. But in the end of the day, with regard to density, we agreed with the planning department to develop this development at about 1/3 of the density that would ordinarily be allowed under the UDO. And what this particularly does is it limits the amount of impact that this development will have, particularly on traffic. In addition to that, by limiting the development, you enable there to be more green space than would ordinarily be provided. And this slide is what's entitled Proposed Green Space Overlay. And as you can see, after the development is done, there's a substantial amount of green space remaining. And what struck me about this slide is the amount of green space that will be provided in the particular development as compared to the Walmart development to the south. The next slide is the landscape plan. Of course, this development will be very well landscaped. The current plan calls for over 1,000 large and small trees and over 3,000 3-gallon shrubs, and that's just to be planted around the perimeter. It doesn't count any plantings that will be done internally that will be required or planned as the development progresses. But again, this property will certainly be very well landscaped and very attractive. In addition, the developer plans to build a 10-foot internal paved walking and biking trail, which will provide interconnectivity, if you think back to the bubble plan, interconnectivity among the parcels for both the residents and their guests. And then again, the park lot, the developer wants to donate the park lot to the city to be used in connection with the Rails to Trails. And if that does happen, the developer is committed to build for the use and benefit of the public a dog park, a parking lot, and convenient access to Rails to Trails and to the development. Although Midland Commons has substantial benefits to the city and the surrounding areas, we're certainly cognizant of the fact that there will be impact. And this developer from the beginning has recognized that and has been willing to address and mitigate that impact. And of course, the overriding concern, the overarching concern, has been traffic. Our traffic engineer, Abdul Amir, the planning department, and the planning department's independent third-party traffic engineer have come together and devised a number of traffic improvements that will help mitigate any impact that this development will have to the transportation network. At the request of the city, the developer has done numerous traffic studies, and they've gathered information from areas extending well beyond the borders of this development, well beyond the impact of this development. But what the traffic studies have done is they've identified traffic improvements that, when they're done, they will mitigate or avoid any material adverse impact to the transportation network by this development. These studies conclude that with the proposed developments, overall delay times, that's the time you actually sit in your vehicle and wait at an intersection, will actually improve under the development as opposed to what they are today. Also, the developer, to further lessen the impact, has agreed to in place all of the traffic improvements up front rather than wait to have the traffic improvements phased in as the development is done. And the impact of that is that the residents enjoy up front a disproportionate benefit of those traffic improvements before the development is done. And again, Abdul will talk about these. These traffic improvements in a little bit later. The property is certainly serviced by all necessary public facilities and infrastructure. There'll be no negative impact to those facilities and infrastructure. Also, the development have a very positive and substantial economic benefit to the city and its citizens, including the creation of numerous construction jobs during the multi-year build-out phase, together with a substantial increase in business for local suppliers, subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, and others that support the construction industry. And there'll be hundreds of permanent jobs created once the development is up and done. Early estimates are that we're looking at up to 750 permanent jobs being created. The development will also provide a substantial increase in the tax base for ad valorem tax purposes, thus providing a substantial economic return to the city and its citizens, again, without adversely affecting any existing infrastructure. Our early estimates are that property tax receipts will go from about $137,000 a year to over $900,000 a year. In addition, there'll be a substantial increase in sales tax receipts, both in connection with the purchase of literally tens of millions of dollars of construction materials, and then permanently once the development is up and done. And we anticipate generating millions of sales tax dollars every year once the development is up and operating. And certainly these sales tax receipts will go a long way and serve an important role in making up any shortfalls in any other revenue streams that the city might have. And y'all, the fact that this development is regional in its reach and impact. All right. Where was I? But the fact that the development is regional in its impact means that a lot of those sales tax dollars are going to come from outside of Columbus. Well, in addition to the economic benefits which we've talked about, there are going to be other benefits that this development will bring, including close and convenient shopping opportunities for local and regional residents. And given this developer's emphasis on mom and pop businesses, local business owners and entrepreneurs will certainly be given an opportunity to participate and succeed. And again, with this being a lifestyle center, people will be able to work, play, and live in a relatively close environment. Residents and their guests can walk or bike to anywhere they want to go, and this is going to be good news to the retailers. I recently read a study which said, and it makes sense if you think about it, but it says that that residents or walk-up customers spend about 60% more per month than those that drive to the business in their automobiles. And I thought this was kind of an odd win-win situation. You got retailers with increased sales, and you got consumers that are saving money on the transportation. On June 7th, we met with the residents at a town hall meeting at Midland Middle School to inform them of our plans and to try to hear their concerns and address some of their concerns. We felt the meeting was very productive. Of course, the primary concern was traffic, and we believe that we've done the best we can to address those concerns with the proposed road improvements. We believe our rezoning request and application meet all the requirements for rezoning. The proposed PMUD classification is consistent and compatible with surrounding land uses as well as the comprehensive plan. All public facilities and infrastructure located at the site, there'll be no negative impact to those facilities and infrastructure. The traffic and road improvements that we proposed will alleviate any concern or any impact to the transportation network. This development will provide a great benefit to this community in terms of job creation, tax revenue generation, convenient shopping, providing much needed senior housing, and providing much desired high quality live, work, play environment. These benefits far outweigh any concerns or issues with this development. Y'all got to remember that this is essentially, it's not really essential, this is a brownfield site that's been vacant for over a decade. And my clients have had the foresight, the fortitude, and the financial resources to turn it into something that we can all be proud of. Therefore, we respectfully request you approve our application, and now we'll turn it over to Nick and Abdul. Thank you.
My name is Chris Whiteman. We have our traffic engineer and our civil engineer here available to answer any questions, but if y'all don't have any questions, we're just going to let the opposition make their
Councilor
case.
Thomas has a question.
Excuse me, please, excuse my voice tonight. Mr. Myers, even though this is in a TAD area that has been approved by this council, this is not a TAD project at this point, is that correct?
That's exactly right. That's correct. It'll have to come back to council before that can happen.
Okay. And I do have some questions about some of the traffic. I don't know if you want me to wait until...
We'll go ahead and let Abdul come up and answer any questions.
This is the issue that has been brought to me time and time and time again, that there already is traffic out there that is the residents are concerned about, and with a development of this size, it will just exacerbate that. One of the things that I was told, and I understand there are at least two sides to every story, okay? One of the things that I was told was that when that area was developed, the Kitten Lake area was developed, the residents out there were told by Georgia Department of Transportation that there was no way that that intersection, that area, where 80 comes in, there was not enough land there to mitigate some of the concerns that they had about transportation. In almost every picture that I have seen of this, there's only one way in and one way out. Would you speak to those two things about how you're going to mitigate that traffic on 80 and what kind of ingress and egress are you going to provide?
Thank you so much for the question. My name is Abdul Mayor with A&R Engineering. I wanted to clarify a little bit so I can answer your question. Are you specifically talking about the intersection of Kitten Lake, or were you talking about the in and out, the right in, right out access to the proposed development?
I think that both. There are people who have concerns on Highway 80 from Schaumburg Road to I don't know, Upatoy. And that this is going to somehow or another impact that traffic and make it worse than it is at this point, or worse than they think it is at this point. The other piece of that is, again, as I've said, most of the sketches that I have seen only show one way in and one way out, and that is, I believe, over at the Flat Rock Road area. So
Let me address that. I'll be happy to address that question. I think one of the things that I wanted to briefly talk about is the traffic study that we did, overall how we did it, and how it answers some of the questions that the neighbors and you are asking. So this was a very rather large traffic study, including 15 intersections in the area, and on top of that, of course, the site access points. The proposed project is proposing not only a main entrance at the existing traffic signal across from at Flat Rocks Road North, but also 3 additional, what you just described as right in, right out driveways where you can just turn right in or turn right out. All left turns will be focused on J. Allen Parkway at the existing traffic signal. So what it does is gives an opportunity for traffic on J. Allen Parkway that's turning into the project and making a right turn, an option to do so at 4 locations, including the signalized location. Similarly, the traffic exiting from the project onto J. Allen Parkway can distribute to 4 different locations, including the signalized location. So it distributes at various points. The other important thing to note is that on all these 3 right-in, right-out driveways, we are recommending, and the developer has agreed to install deceleration lane. So the traffic entering the project, a right turn lane. That way, traffic entering the project from J. Allen Parkway has the opportunity to get out of the through lane, slow down, and then make the right turn movement into the project to minimize the impact on the high-speed through traffic on J. Allen Parkway. Similarly, the exiting movement from the site at these right-in, right-out driveways, they will not interfere much with the traffic operations on the main road, primarily because they will have to come to the stop sign and stop and find a gap in one direction only and just make a right turn, which is the most safest movement driveway you can have with least number of conflicts, if you will, as opposed to where left turn movements are allowed. So all left turns are focused at the existing signal across from J. Allen Parkway, Flat Shoals Road North. We are beefing up that intersection substantially, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Coming out of the project, we're proposing to have 4 exiting lanes, 2 for turning left out of the project at the light, 1 to go straight on Flat Rock, and 1 to turn right. And then on the entering side, we will have 2 entering lanes. So the entrance to the project at the light essentially will have 6 lanes. So we beefed it up quite a bit. And then on the making a left-hand turn into the project from J. Allen Parkway, we will have 2 entering lanes. Right now, in the existing condition, we have only 1 lane. So we'll install a second lane so dual left turns can happen. The idea is to minimize the amount of time the through traffic on the main road is stopped. So we add as many lanes as we can to allow through traffic. So those are the things at site access points we are doing. In addition to that, like I mentioned, the study does look at many other intersections and has developed some system improvements at those locations. Also at Gateway, go ahead.
Touch this thing, draw on it like you want to.
Okay. What do I use? Finger?
Yeah, finger, and then there's your, use your
Pointer? Thank you.
You can use your clicker and go.
Okay. All right. So that was the main signalized intersection I've been talking about. This is one of the right-in, right-out driveways, second one and third one, and then you get to the ramp. The other thing I did not mention is the connection to Talokas Lane here at the existing intersection. We are proposing some improvements there as well. There are 2 exiting lanes, and so we are restriping and reconfiguring that as well to improve traffic operations at that location. And the thing that wanted to mention, what we were asked to study by your capable staff, multiple time periods, AM peak hours. We studied 2 hours in the morning. Then we were asked to study midday as well, so we went ahead and added that information, and the PM, of course, 2 hours. So really we were out there studying for 6 hours in a day, weekday, how traffic patterns work. And this project, although the total square footage is large, because of the mixed-use nature of the project, there are internal trip capture. So in other words, some of the residential folks that live on the project can just hopefully walk or bike to some of the other land uses such as retail and not have to get in the car and get out on the main road. So there are some internal captures and mixed use reductions that really help reduce the overall traffic on external road network.
I am not as familiar as I would like to be with that, with all of that property, but from what I see here, all of the entrances and exits are on 280. Is that correct? There are none to the back of the property?
Yeah, the one connection to Gateway Road in addition to all the access on J. Allen Parkway. So Tolucas Lane, the connection here that you're seeing ties into Tolucas Lane, which comes back onto Gateway Road. So that is also a connection, direct connection out to Gateway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have any questions, Mr. City Attorney?
Okay. All right, if that's all for the applicant, we will hear from opposition. And Mr. Reyes, you want to go first? Give them your name and address.
Yes, sir.
Please, sir, give them your name and address.
Christopher Reyes, 7200 Springbrook Drive, Columbus, Georgia, 31909, zip code. We haven't discussed the sewer. All right, where is the engineer, and what engineer, and how is the city involved with the sewer? What is existing there as far as a sewer service? And what will be the new sewer service? Where is the sewer going to be directed to? And then that's question A. Question B, the water runoff. How do they propose to maintain the water on this property? Will it be held up on the property, or will the water be in retention ponds? Where is this water going to flow to? I also want to know on the sewer, what type of flow test will there be? Will it be PE certified? Will the flow capacity be tested? Will the flow speed be tested? Will the sewer flow speed have the proper speed as far as minimum requirements for the state of Georgia? Okay. Who will be on top of the sewer design and the parking lot water discharge design? And where's the water going? Where's the sewer going?
Okay. Is that it, Mr. Reyes? Are those your questions?
For this one, I would like to make a comment on 6801.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
you go
ma'am.
ahead and you go ahead and finish your statements, and then I'm jotting down your
Okay.
questions. and-
Yes, ma'am,
And
I
they are
think-
too.
Is this going to be a septic tank set up for sewer? Okay, what are they tying into? Are they going to tie into an existing sewer main that is actually PE approved and can handle this extra sewer? What are the proposals for sewer development underground? And again, where are they channeling the water for the parking lot? Is it going into retention ponds? I understand there's a new system where they hold it underground. When it gets filled up, they withdraw it, pull the water out of the tanks. Okay, what creek or residential homeowner may be affected by the water that's discharging from this parking lot? What residential homeowner existing may be affected by the sewer that's coming off of this property? Okay? Who has done the studies? Will the studies be done? Will it be in compliance with the state of Georgia? Okay, can I get those answered, Mayor?
Yeah, and did you say you had another statement, or just, I've got down the sewer and then all the particular parts, and then you said you had just a general statement?
No, ma'am, I just want to find out what the proposed sewer development
Okay.
is and the proposed stormwater discharge development
Stormwater,
is.
okay, great,
Because
thank you.
the statement is that I'm a victim of the planning program not clarifying and letting council know where the water's going, where the sewer is going, okay? Whether it's PE approved, whether there's an easement, whether there's any contaminants in this water that we have to worry about discharging from this development into a protected water source.
All right.
Okay, so I just want to make sure the council, all the citizens that are in this area are aware of what's happening on the ground and under the ground.
Right. Okay.
And will I be able to verify the testing that's required for sewer flow? Will I be able to verify what they actually say is PE approved, so to speak?
Okay.
If there's a professional engineer that stamps it, will I be able to verify by him that this is required specs for this development? Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we need sort of a comprehensive overview of the sewer system and the stormwater discharge system.
Okay. Of course, this project will be reviewed by the Department of Engineering. As far as the sanitary sewer goes, that's handled either one of two ways. If it is a sanitary sewer, it is reviewed and approved and monitored through the Columbus Water Works. If it is a septic system, then of course that goes through the health department. So the city engineering department does not look at the sanitary sewer portion.
Donna, could you speak up?
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Just say that last part,
The sanitary sewer system is not reviewed and approved through the Department of Engineering. Those are either by the Health Department or the Columbus Water Works. Now, there are elements about the sanitary sewer that we look at as far as site development goes. Its location, conflicts with storm sewers, that sort of thing. But the plans have been designed by a professional engineer, and they are required to meet all the elements of the federal, state, and local ordinances. They will have to provide detention, and they will have to provide water quality. In all actuality, as was stated before, they're actually adding green space that wasn't there before. And of course, with an industrial use, there's always more opportunities for contamination than there would be in a commercial or residential use. So we're comfortable with what the engineer has submitted and has been discussing with our office.
and I think that, was there someone from the group that wanted to speak? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Did you want to say something?
Give them your name and address, please, sir.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Nick Saka with Mass Engineering. I am the civil engineer for the project. We are located out of Ackworth, Georgia. Is it possible to get the slides put back up on the overhead?
Yeah, I think so. There we go.
Okay. And then can I back it up here? Oh, I was hoping to go up a couple slides. Yeah. Oh.
You might want to clear away those marks.
Oh.
Just clear, there we go.
So just looking at this slide right here, you'll see that the old Swift Mill site currently is a large amount of impervious. The first thing I want to talk about is stormwater. So currently there's about 35 acres of paved area that there is no retention provided. It essentially goes directly to a stream untreated. So with this development, we're going to go in and we're going to put in a master detention pond that will, like Donna said, provide both water quality and volume to slow down the flow that, allows the stormwater to go into the stream, so that way it's not overtaxing or overburdening the stream or creating downstream flooding. So that will be designed by PE. We've already submitted those. Their department's already reviewed it. It seems acceptable. Now, in terms of the sanitary sewer, like Donna mentioned, both the water and sewer department, that's not the engineering department, reviews the plans. They've already essentially told us that there is capacity for the sewer for this project. Previously, this was a textile plant where they actually went in and they dyed a lot of jeans and stuff like that. So they would actually had an aeration basin on site where they aerated it and they actually discharged a lot of the effluent. To the sanitary system. So actually, we're actually probably going to be reducing the overall flow for the sanitary flow for this project. So there'll be an improvement for both sanitary and for stormwater with this project coming in.
Great. Thank you all. All right. And I know we have yet another, sir?
Yeah, go ahead and give me your name and address, please, sir.
Yes, my name is Robert Hutchinson. I live at 6216 Bayonne Drive. And I think that this is, well, let's put it this way, in its most fundamental case, this is a zoning hearing. And the question comes up, do we need more commercial property in North Columbus? Well, I asked the developers if there was a need for more commercial property in Columbus, and he said, I don't know, we didn't study that. I asked the city planning, do we have any need for more commercial property in North Columbus? And the answer was, we don't know, we didn't study it. This is a zoning change. This is land use. Columbus has got some wonderful land use and some terrible land use. I don't know of a better planned community than the Brookstone area. Anywhere in Georgia. It was wonderfully done. We ought to be trying for something a little long-term. University of California, Santa Barbara, urban planning, has studied the misuse of land, trying to get too much out of it too soon. My daughter lives in a place called Conyers that had a building boom about 10 years ago. If you go from Interstate 20 down 20 to the county line, you'll find it dotted by about 18 or 20 parking or shopping centers. Many of them half full or less, and they've been like that for 10 years. Are we running into a situation where we're overbuilding? I don't know. I know that we seem to be continuing on, building on that J.R. Allen corridor on both sides of the road. And I don't know if there's any need at this time. Perhaps in 20 years, we may have a need for this in this location. If we were just talking about a smaller amount of commercial property and a larger residential component in this, then maybe we're a closer call. But there are only two ways out. You've either got to go down to Gateway or you get out by J.R. Allen on Flat Rock. And as you all know, both of those roads are one lane in each direction. Flat Rock Road dead ends into Warm Springs Road, another two-lane road that's got two schools, an elementary school and a middle school, less than a half mile away. We also have the complication of a commercial park, industrial park, right there on the east side of Flat Rock Road. Right now, there isn't a lot in there, but I'm sure the planning in this city hopes that that gets built up more and has more and more activity. Well, right now, there's a two-lane road out there. We got kind of some road problems that weren't addressed in the presentation. Now, as I say, it's not an issue of, is this property never going to be developed? No, of course it will. But we have to look at the community's needs. Do we need another big commercial center on the north side of Columbus? Is that what we need? Where we screw up the traffic again? I think we've got, and the city engineer probably will tell you about the kind of problems we have down on Miller Road at Gateway, where the light is, where you've got 4 lights within a quarter mile of each other, or of the 4. We've got to use some sense and good land planning. We've got a large section of commercially zoned property right now at the intersection of Flat Rock Road and Warm Springs Road. That's all ready to go. I mean, it's zoned. We have a lot of commercial zone property right along J.R. Allen, right now, ready to go, that's okay, that doesn't have to be changed. I think we're going too fast here. I think we need to back up a little bit, to slow down. I know this is a brand new, what do you call it, PUD? TAD, excuse me, a TAD area. But unless a bunch of people get a big pay raise in the next couple of years, there isn't going to be any extra sales tax money from this development. Because in order to have sales tax money coming in, people have got to spend it, and if their income didn't go up, they just didn't spend it where they had spent it before. I know this is not a great topic to bring up in commercial situations, but let's face it, commercial development is a very competitive thing, and if you've got a business like a grocery store or a drugstore, poaching goes on all the time. And it's not good for the community that it happens in. And so I'm not saying turn this down. I'm saying let's look at it again and see if there isn't something that can be done in such a way that it benefits Columbus, Georgia, not has winners and losers and things that were not thought of at the time and should have been thought of. And I'm thinking about every single development that we've had in the last 20 years in Columbus. There have been some things that didn't get done right. So at this point, I'd really like this not to be, just have this tabled. Let's get back and see if there isn't something that can be worked out that can be satisfactory. Because believe me, the traffic problems down on Miller Road and Gateway are real, and they're going to be made much worse. The traffic that already exists on Flat Rock Road between J.R. Allen and Warm Springs Road is something that isn't addressed. So I don't want to say, no, don't do a project, but what's been presented isn't good for the city of Columbus. It isn't necessary because we've already got the commercial property in the area where things could be made. But Kitty Lake has been a real eye-opener for me. Kitty Lake has created all sorts of traffic problems that were not dealt with. So that's my plea for the council. I thank you very much for listening. As I say, I don't want to be obstruction, but I don't want this the way it is now It's flawed, and I think maybe those flaws can be corrected. I'm willing to try. I hope others are. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure you stated your name and address. I don't think I asked for it. Did you get your name and address in the beginning?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't asleep at the wheel up here. Okay. And we've got the Mayor Pro Tem.
Sir. Excuse me.
Ms. Hutchins.
And now, did you talk with petitioners before tonight?
Excuse me?
Did you get a chance to speak with the petitioners before tonight?
I'm sorry. I haven't been touched today.
And I don't talk loud.
I am a little bit hard of hearing. I guess it was.
Have you met with developers?
No, I haven't, other than at the meeting.
Yeah.
I will be happy to meet with the developers. Sit down.
Did they not have a town hall meeting about this?
Did
But
you
I'm-
have a town hall meeting?
Excuse me?
Did you attend the town
Yes.
hall meeting?
Yeah. Sure did.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Okay, anybody else in the audience want to be heard for or against? Any more questions around the table? All right.
City Attorney, Mr. City Attorney?
Well, we've already
Yeah.
heard from Mr. Reyes.
One quick question, will I be able to meet with the developers?
Yeah.
How do you schedule an appointment to meet with the
They're
developers?
right there, sir. They're right there. He's going to give you his card, and you give him a call,
This
okay?
guy here?
No, sir, the one right behind you. There you go. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Mayor, City Manager, what's the pleasure on bringing this back on the consent agenda next week?
I wouldn't bring this one back on consent.
Okay, well then it'll be first regular meeting in August then. This will be back on second reading.
So that's second Tuesday of August. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for being here. Next items, Mayor, we have a couple of requests for special exception. The first one is operation of a used auto truck sales at 2900 4th Avenue. It's recommended for denial by Planning Advisory Commission. Planning Department recommends approval. Mr. Deal is the applicant. Mr. McKenna here on his behalf. You want to come up? Mr. McKenna, give him your name and address and tell them briefly what the plan is.
Thank you, Clifton. I'm Rob McKenna. I'm with Page Ground Express Trucker and Ford. I represent Dennis Deal and Double D Auto Brokers in connection with this request.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Sorry. We're requesting a special exception use for 2900 4th Avenue, which is a property off of, about a half mile off of Victory Drive, Veterans Parkway. It is currently zoned LMI. He would like to use the property for an auto retail dealership. Currently has a license to be a wholesaler, but to do the retail side, he's got to have a 2-acre minimum on his lot. This lot is currently right at an acre, so we need to get a special use exception for him to be allowed to do the retail side. Does anybody got any questions about that part?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. So I know that...
Okay, now we have Counselor Woodson.
Sure.
I have not had an opportunity to go out there and look at this site. I do have some concerns because we are trying to beautify Victory Drive in that area
Well,
there.
this is Veterans Parkway, I'm sorry.
On Veterans Parkway.
I said Victory, but...
Yeah, you did. That's why I said, wait, I don't...
Veterans Parkway.
Okay. And this is near where now?
So do you know where the ball fields are off of Veterans Parkway as you're
Yeah.
coming downtown? If you turn right there and you go down the hill, if you go back up the hill, it's up on the top of the hill.
Oh, okay. Okay. This is Walker's.
It's in Council Garrett's.
Okay. All right, we have Is that it, Councilor Woodson?
Yes, he'll talk to me about it.
And we've got the mayor, pro tem.
I just don't want to mess up.
I guess I need to ask the city attorney, was there any opposition to this?
Well, I'm fixing to ask, but we don't know of any.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think there was some opposition at PAC, but,
Yeah, we do have some people that want to speak.
okay.
Okay.
Is there any other questions about that?
Is that all y'all wanted to say at
Yeah.
this time?
Yeah, we've had one more counselor. Counselor Thomas.
And this is for Mr. Jones. If we grant a special exception on this auto sales area less than the 2 acres, is there any kind of restriction on how many cars you can have on your lot or any of those kinds of things?
There is nothing in the UDO that really specifies the actual number of cars involved with that, because, again, that may vary from lot to lot. The idea, though, is to make sure that you can accommodate those cars on that lot without them having to actually overhang or overflow into somebody else's property, so.
It just seems that on a 2-acre lot, you could put more cars than you could on a 9/10 of an acre lot. And, just wondering if there's any kind of, there's no, you're saying there's no ordinance requirement. There may be an aesthetic requirement.
Well, and I've been reminded by Mr. Johnson, there is a restriction on coverage of the lot itself through the UDO itself. So you can't cover that up. Like I said, you cannot cover that lot up entirely with cars. We have lots, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, that put as many cars on that lot they can stick on there.
And if this were a 2-acre plot, would the automotive sale be acceptable?
Yes, ma'am.
The special exception then is because of the size of the lot?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
At
All
council
right.
this time.
We'll let the other folks that want to be,
If I can,
okay.
I do know that the applicant has a large warehouse on that property right now. He is talking about keeping a lot of those cars inside. So there will be some out, but some of them will be inside. So,
All right. Give me your name and address, please, sir. You can come on
My
up.
name is Max Helms, and I operate Helms Brothers Body Shop at 429th Street. I look directly into his backyard of the building that he's presently in. And, the mayor is trying to help us clean up Second Avenue and North Highland, and I attended several meetings for that. And this particular situation here, Mr. Deal has taken care of the front of his building on 4th Avenue. He's not done anything to the side of the building. His backyard is a pile full of building construction material. And I have my customers look right into that every day that come in and out. I've had a lot of bad complaints from my customers as to the mess that's out there. He's owned that building for 5 years. He's never done anything to it other than paint the front of the building a month ago. I have photographs here of his building, if you all need to see it, and from every angle. I've made photographs of my business and another business and a church that joins 29th Street. And we try to keep it nice. And the traffic is not on 4th Avenue. The traffic is on 29th Street, coming off of the expressway to 2nd Avenue. And as far as his business, I'm not trying to stop his business. I'm curious if he's retail, is he wholesale? Is he going to put an auction house inside that building? The building is at least 2/3 of the entire lot. So he doesn't have much exterior. Most of it's all interior. Is he going to be storing cars inside that building with any kind of permit for, as far as fire safety, or what is he going to do when he washes cars? Everybody's having to build pits to wash cars now in order to take care of the settlement, the water, sewers, and those things. That's my business there. I'm across the street from him on 29th Street. That's the man that does flooring. He's right across 4th Avenue from us. And he looks right at the side of that of Mr. Deal's building. There's the church. He looks right at the side of Mr. Deal's building. And then the other photographs are going to be of Mr. Deal's building. And by the way, does he already have an occupancy permit? He's already got his signs up, and he's appears to be working out of it. I don't know. And that's the front of his building. It looks nice. He's painted the front of his building. He's cleaned it up. He's stacked some of his building material to this side, which is next to Mo. That's just the side we see from 29th Street to the front of his business and the one next door to him. Now, there's the side of his business that the church looks at and the flooring man looks at right there. He's got vines growing out of the roof, hanging down on the sides. He's got it, and you'll see in the next photograph, there's big air conditioning units. That's going backwards. That's looking at the back of it from my front door. You can see the big pile of materials. He did cut the grass in there. And on the left side of that building, of the pile of trash, you can see all kind of debris. There's air conditioning units that are no longer used. And Mr. Hooten had it. He air conditioned the building. Sheet metal tearing off of the roof. And what's he going to do? Is he going to fill that full of cars? That will eventually wind up being inoperable vehicles sitting everywhere out there. And then my customers still have to look at all that mess when they come out of our place. And that's just other same photographs. And it's just I don't care if he has a business, but it needs to be nice and neat and clean and a good business. We all know that automobile business at times can turn into a mess if it's not monitored with blind fences, and there's a lot of, because we have gone through that for 48 years right there in that business that we're in now, in that 48 years. So I do have a lot of concerns, and we're trying to protect the value of our property. We pay a lot of property taxes. Our taxes are running over $20,000 a year just for property taxes, and I don't want to have to look at that, spending that kind of money. No. So those are my problems. I want him to have a good business. I want him to make money, and I want him to prosper, but not at my expense. And, so if he needs to join into the group that we have that's trying to clean up Second Avenue, then he needs to jump on the wagon and let's see if he can do that.
Right.
I want him to be as proud of it as I am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, if you'd like to.
Mr. Helms asked about the current state of his business. Mr. Deal is currently licensed by the state for the wholesale side of the business. So he is operating on the wholesale side. So he is fully licensed for that. The building in the back, this was a warehouse for Mr. Deal for a long time. He's trying to convert that into an active business, part of which will be the retail side of the automobile dealership. The metal building that's in the back was a full building that was disassembled and stored. He is moving that. He's in the process of doing that right now. And like I said earlier, he is planning to keep a lot of the cars inside that building, the existing building.
And is it Mr. Deal or Mr. Neal?
Deal.
Deal, thank you.
DEAL.
One thing we can do is get Mr. Deal the link or perhaps a hard copy, Rick, to the City Village redevelopment plan. Since he is a member of the community, we want him to know what all's going on, and that only improves the property.
Sure.
So, let's see, we've got the Mayor Pro Tem.
I was trying to figure out, maybe the planning department knows. Looking at those pictures, where the business is, where are they gonna put the cars just to sell?
Where are the cars going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the cars will go inside the building. He's planning to keep them inside the warehouse building that's existing.
How many cars do you plan on keeping on the lot? Because it's not that much
I don't know the
space.
answer to that. How many cars? How many cars do you anticipate having on the lot?
At the most outside, this piece of property, most of it is building. There's minimum lot there, most of it's building, and that's a very rough area over there, and I'm planning on keeping most of them inside. But outside of the perimeter of the building, at the very most, there might be, logically, I only have room for maybe 25 cars, maybe 25 at the most on the outside of the building. The inside the building is where I'm gonna keep the cars. I own a lot of property in Columbus. I ain't no little raggedy landlord. Yes, it has been an eyesore over there in the metal building that's laying back there. I'm in the process of getting rid of it, getting it off the premises. We painted that building, and I'm gonna paint the exterior of the building. It ain't a piece of dump that it's portrayed to be.
But, you're going to go in being a good neighbor. Have you talked with your neighbors about what your plans are?
Did you talk to Mr. Helms about the plan? The neighbors.
Very briefly, yes, ma'am, very briefly. We had a very brief conversation, no more than about a minute and a half. He asked me what I was planning on doing. I told him what I was planning on doing, and that was the end of the conversation. I had no idea, that it would, he was that dissatisfied with it. He does keep a very presentable building over there. I'll be the first to say that.
Yeah, I've been there before.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a car there now.
I guess it's not just him, not just his building, but others in church and some of the other people. So do you make a commitment that you're going to clean it up?
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna have the building removed, and I've cleaned the yard up very thoroughly. Yeah, there's a little vine here and there. All this perimeter on the back of the building that is really growed up 20 feet tall, that is not my property. I'm dealing with the city right now about that. That is a Southern Railroad abandoned line situation, and I've been going that for 3 months trying to get some answers on that. But as far as the building itself, there ain't no raggedy cars, there ain't no cars outside. I ain't opening an auto mechanic shop, which, I ain't selling used car tires. I'm just gonna try to sell some cars, and I will have some outside. There ain't gonna be a bunch of hoods open over there. It ain't gonna be a junkyard. It'll be a used car lot. And the most room I have outside is 25, 30 spaces at the most, at the very most. This is a 15,000 square foot building sitting on this piece of property. So that's basically over 3/4 of this property is a building itself, which you can see that on that one drawing.
Okay, now if this passes, we expect you to keep your word.
Yes, ma'am, I will. I have no problem. That building will be gone within 30 days. The metal building is sitting there. That building will be gone within 30 days. It's just very expensive to get somebody to come out there and move that building off the premises, because they have to have a big lift and all that and strap it all down and everything. That's the biggest eyesore over there. But it seems to me, if that was that much of a problem, I would have known about it before now.
But I just say that because I know we spend a lot of time trying to clean up a quarter. And North, I guess we call it North Highland.
I own 25 houses in North Highland, to be honest with you. And mine are pretty presentable over there.
Okay.
They ain't a bunch of junk. I ain't no slumlord by no means. Even though this building, I'm using it myself. I got 2 little offices over there, got an alarm over there. I spent $10,000 on cameras. It's gonna be a pretty little presentable place.
Okay, we have you on tape now. Thank you.
All right, we've got Counselor Garrett.
This may be a question for Director Jones, but one of my constituents is in the audience who lives behind this property, and she's had water runoff from another business, not this current business. And Mr. Dealey, you might be able to answer this. Are you going to have any alterations to the property whatsoever, and Mr. Jones will be able to help with this, that might possibly add anything to flooding, because she had a parking lot built up around her and she's on the lower land, and it's created significant flood runoff, which we've been dealing with, but it's around that railroad area you're talking about.
Oh, no, I'm not doing that.
So you're not going to be paving anything that's currently dirt, that's absorbing water?
The only thing I would do, the
Okay.
But there is two little houses behind that are on the opposite street. That must be the houses you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking
But
about.
I've never moved no dirt over there or nothing like that. I've never moved no dirt
Okay.
or paved or anything. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, give them your name and address, ma'am.
Okay, good evening. My name is Alice T. Davis, Jex on my deeds. I'm here about the people that pull down the trees and pull up the railroad T-iron there. Wasn't any water when we had all four of the houses, 3 houses above me, in my house, where our drain, stone water run to the street and to the railroad track. But now it pours right over in my yard. I've been there 40 years, and they've been there about 3.5 years. And this rainwater can wash up my posts up under my, because they put that soft material there, and when it rained, it all banked up on me and pour it down into my yard. Now, my flower beds and all has been washed up. This was 40 years I lived it there. I paid for the house and remodeled the house and everything, even though now it's weighing down with me. But if it had put the concrete like the street there, when it rained, it would have went out in the street, but now it's pouring over in my yard. And had been doing that ever since several of the people that inspected the grounds and things, what came by there, when they was doing this, and they asked, so you seen any heavy equipment out here pulling up the trees? He said, because I can't find no wet order for it. So they done finished it, and they got the trucks and everything parked there and everything. But when it rained, flood rain, it poured over in my drain. So one city worker done came out there and built a bar up like so, and they put what they call the strainer. And all that mud and stuff what they put over behind the bar, what they build up, to wash away. I think this gentleman, I can't remember your name and I can't see it from here.
Councilor Garrett.
He taking pictures of it. How high it is up now, up like this over my fence. And all our yards was evil, even though common sense would tell you over the years the earth's gonna wash away. But this done built up and pouring down into mine.
Let me ask you something, ma'am. Is
The
this,
pillar on my porch now, it was holding up my house part of the porch.
Yeah, that's what I was
It
thinking.
done left the.
You know what I'm thinking? You're talking about a different property, aren't you?
No,
Yeah, I
well, we
think-
all right there together.
Right. It's in the same area. I think what we need to do is if Donna Newman is here, maybe have Donna or maybe Carly can come out and speak with you and write this down, because it sounds like it's another situation that the city's dealing with. Oh, okay. And so I think we're already working on it, but I don't think, unless Councilor Garrett can correct me, that this exception, what this gentleman's talking about doing, will in any way change the issue you're struggling with. I think we need to continue down the road you're already working on with the city to see what we can do to alleviate those issues. But I don't think, unless somebody can correct me, that what's going on with your property is related to this gentleman's special exception. Is that correct?
No, not to Joe Hughes. Joe Hughes is on 29th Street,
Right,
correct?
okay.
This is not, all our back runs onto the railroad track.
Right.
But back in the years, we kept that railroad on our land cut, that when the train was coming up through there, they would stand out on the outside of the train. But when you got Bubba, the house there, they had to step back in the train because the people up the railroad that never cut their bushes. But back in the days when I first bought that and the older one would done passed on and moved on, the railroad done growed up like a swamp.
Sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get Carly to go get your name and your information. I know Councilor Garrett has it, but I want to make sure that we get your information, and we're going to get the right folks with you to address what's going on at your property, okay?
Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
hey, thank you very much.
And have
Okay,
a blessed evening.
Councilor Baker, Carly, can you go? Okay, we're going to have somebody come right out to you out there if you just wait just one
Okay.
second. All right, Councilor Baker. Oh, yeah. Well, hold on a second, I've got you on, but it's not showing on. Hold on a second. There you go.
Rick, I guess from the technical standpoint, when he adds that many cars and begins to clean them, what protections have to be in place? How is that addressed?
In terms of, again, the location of the vehicles and so forth?
No, the water itself, the runoff. Yeah, when he begins to clean all the vehicles, the chemicals in the cleaners, how is all that
He would
handled?
have to have an oil and grit separator, and it would have to be connected to the sanitary sewer system. And it would be inspected by the engineering department, by the Columbus Water Works, and by inspections and codes. They're different elements.
Is that prior to, issuing well, he doesn't have to have a CO if he's already there. That's prior to when? Because all we're doing is we're just approving the special exception, so what happens next? He has to apply for the license? Or a retail?
Depends on his business license. If he's going to wash the cars on site, then he has to bring it up to code.
Right.
Regardless if he's in operation today, if he's washing cars outside of the building, then he would have to bring it up to
At
code.
what step of the process does that come into play? Where y'all actually see the improvements done? Or
Well, I'm not sure if he's got to have any additional permits or modifying his license or what.
I think he'd have to have another.
That's my question. I'm
Right.
just trying to see how this plays out.
He currently has a wholesaling license.
I understand.
So he would have to go back and get a retail license.
Right.
So at that point, he'd have to comply with whatever the city code.
So I'm saying prior to the issuance of that license, this would all have to be in place. That's the point I'm
correct.
trying to get to.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
To the
It couldn't
CO
come
for
after
that
the fact by what he's already doing. He couldn't get a license by what he's already doing. He's going to have to get a new license, and these protections will have to be in place before that license is issued.
Correct.
That was my question.
Correct.
Okay. Not a statement, that's a question. Okay.
So the answer is he's either got to wash the cars off-site, which is what he plans to do, or bring it up to code.
Okay. That was my question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold on, Rick, did you have something? And then this gentleman had one.
I want to make sure we're clear about this, Councilor Thomas, because that's what I'm here for, I guess, in that regard. There is a provision under the section 3.2.8 deals with auto truck sales, new and used, and it talks about special exceptions, but it also talks about the fact that for sale vehicles shall be limited to a maximum of 50% of the lot coverage. 50%, so they can't cover that lot more than 50% for cars. Okay? So that gives us some reassurance in terms of what we're looking at and the number of cars that can go on that site.
Thank you. All right, let's see, we've got Counselor Woodson.
I just want to clarify. Okay, Rick, with what you're saying, he's assuming that he can put 25 cars in there, but the reality is he might not be able to place 25 cars in there.
That's going
Is
to be...
that correct? Who's going to ensure that he doesn't go beyond that?
That goes back through inspections and codes, dealing with special enforcement, or anything else we've got going on from that standpoint, from a building code aspect of it. They are actually the enforcers of the UDO itself, so they'll have to monitor that.
My other question was, he can have the option of taking the cars out the lot and wash them, then washing them there, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And if he does it there, he would have to upgrade, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
I'm not accusing you of anything, so don't take it that way. But there's a tendency when people would say, I'm going to do this, but then they get in the hustle and bustle, and all of a sudden the hose comes out and things get to washing, and we don't have enough, code enforcement individuals to look at that. I think that something should be a requirement if he's going to run a lot, because he's going to have to clean those vehicles. He's going to have to, something needs to be in place that says that he needs that there. I saw you pointing. No, so I was wondering. So that's where my concern is. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to do it, can do it, but I know when you get in the hustle and bustle, you might not have that opportunity. You're going to wash that car real quick, and next thing you know, your manager or whoever's there will start doing it because it's easier. It's easier than moving each car, to go get it washed and bring it back every week. So I just think that that needs to be a criteria of the special enforcement. And I guess that's something that the city attorney would need to, answer to. I'm going to tell you, I'm very hesitant about this because it's a community that we're trying to clean up and build up. I'm not saying you, but lots of times people that open car businesses or dealership or repair cars do not have the respect for the neighbors because they don't live there. So I'm having a very difficult time with this. So I'm not even sure which way I'm going to vote yet. I need to hear some more. But I think that's very important that if we can add that to the special exception to protect the neighbors. Because he can say today, I'm going to take the cars, but we all know you get busy. Or he leaves somebody in charge, that person in charge says, I ain't driving, I'm just going to wash it here real quick. Who's going to know? And we're talking about 25 vehicles, and we're talking chemicals.
I think, didn't Donna say that if he was going to do that, he would have to get it brought up to code, and it would have to have its own containment if he was going to?
That's right.
Yeah, Donna said that, but his attorney said
He was gonna
that
do it
he was going to
outside.
do it outside, and I would like to take some precaution, because, yes, right now at this point, he's saying, yes, he'll do it outside. But if worse comes to worse, crunch comes to crunch, he might start washing one car, or his manager does, whoever is running
Yeah.
the business.
And then that would be a
before you
violation,
know,
he'd be ticketed.
it keep going. But by the time we get someone out there to ticket it, the car's going to be clean, it's going to be dry, there's nothing there. That's a problem we're having in neighborhoods. We're having that problem right now in Oakland Park.
When the
with a
law
business.
already prohibits it, what could we do on a special exception other than just say that he's required to follow?
He's
the
got to
law?
meet code regardless, and all you can do here is limit the number of cars, and the UDO already does that in effect by 50% of the lot coverage, so,
I mean,
this
with all due
either,
respect, you've got that problem with any business out there.
Yeah,
I mean, it has
that's
nothing-
what we're trying to clean up,
you know,
quit that from happening.
And you've got somebody who's willing to take an existing warehouse building in a neighborhood that you want to improve, and he's willing to open a business on site.
I'm not
So
saying anything about that.
it seems to me that, I know you don't think maybe used car dealers are the best ones, but it is an operating business in a neighborhood that we're trying to redevelop. So rather than just being a warehouse building stuffed with stuff.
I'm not, go ahead.
It is on, you're still on? Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to do it, and I'm not saying that car dealerships are bad. I'm not saying that.
Well-
I'm just saying that we're in the community. He just said a little while ago, he owns like 25 properties in that neighborhood.
Correct.
We're having meetings, we're having things in that area to kind of help and clean it and improve it. He wants to do a business, and I don't have any problems with him doing a business, but experiences that has happened south of Macon Row is because lots of people just think it doesn't matter. They'll say something, they'll start a business, and then later on, it doesn't follow what they said. So all I'm asking is to ensure that this is in place in case he cannot take those vehicles out of the parking lot. Now, and he'll have to wash them right there and then, because it will be more feasible for him. But staff is saying that it's up to the licenses when they expect it to put whatever criteria need to be. Is that correct?
Well, it'll be up to code enforcement to determine.
That would be part of his license to do that.
So I'm
If he's
saying.
going to wash cars on site, he would have to have the proper BMPs in place. If he's saying he's not going to wash them on site and we catch him washing cars on site, he will be issued a citation to the environmental court. And then he will have to install it as well.
Once he goes to court.
Well, that depends on what
That'll
the
be
judge
up to
does.
the judge. Okay.
Yes. But he cannot continue to wash cars without the proper controls in place.
And please understand, I'm not trying to stop you from having a business because everybody's entitled to a business. It's not my place to say what kind of business you should have or not have. But my job is to protect the citizens and yourself. And so the questions I have to ask are questions that I'm concerned because I put myself in that neighbor that's going to live next to you. Okay? So it's not that, I'm against a dealer. I'm just want to make sure because right now we have those kind of situations in South Columbus, where we have used car dealers that are not keeping them up to date and came up here and said, oh, we're going to do this, and haven't. So that's where I'm coming from. Like Evelyn said, we're going to hold you to your word if
Yes,
this passes.
I understand that. And I understand if I wash cars, I have to be under code. I understand that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna wash cars there. If I decide to wash cars, I'm gonna go through the proper channels and get it. I know about all the drainage, it has to go in the proper drainage. I'm aware of all that.
All right. We don't have any further counselors at this time. Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Got a hand out here, Mayor. One more.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Yes, sir. Did you have something?
Question. I don't know much about auto brokers. What does auto brokers mean? Is that wholesale? Is that retail? Or can he put an auto auction inside that building? What does that mean? Is his license going to take it down to wholesale or retail?
Yeah, I don't know that we go by the name of the business, but we do go by the business license. And right now it's a wholesale and then it'll be a retail. So what does that mean he can do? Can he auction?
The retail guy, he's got his cars out there for sale to the public. Is he going to just sell to dealers? Or is he going, or does he buy at auctions and sell to
Yeah.
dealers?
You want to, somebody want to field that?
Yeah, currently, he's a wholesale dealer, so he can buy cars wholesale and turn around and sell them
He
wholesale.
cannot sell them retail.
He cannot sell retail to the public. So this is for a retail license, which would allow him to sell to the public.
And the size of that building would accommodate an auction easily. Is it going to be an auction?
I don't know if he plans to do an auction, but
But I
think you probably have to
don't
check.
want to mislead anybody. I'm not sure that what we're doing would prohibit an auction. No, Mr. City Attorney? I think if he gets, whether it's wholesale or retail, I'm not sure that it.
I don't know the licensing requirements.
Yeah, I don't know either. We need
Auction.
to check, but I don't want to misrepresent or mislead you. I think that, and we're going to check, but I think that regardless of wholesale or lease, or wholesale or retail, he could have an auction. Do y'all know? Let's see, we're checking
I
it.
don't know if you have to have an extra license for that or not.
Yeah.
You may have to have a state
You may
license.
have to have a license like for an auction event, but I don't know that what we're doing today would prohibit it.
My guess is you'd have to have a state license to do auctions, but I don't know that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that there is a section here that deals with auto truck brokers and in the UDO itself, and it talks about basically that if you're an auto truck broker, you cannot store or display automobiles or trucks. The idea behind an auto broker is pretty much, as Will just communicated to me, it's a guy in an office with a computer and a phone, and he basically makes deals. He'll order, try to find you a car and order it and get it to you. He doesn't have anything on site for the most part, if you're going to do it as an auto broker. So
Some do.
the auto broker is clearly in the UDO that says you can't store or display the automobiles. Basically, all you can do is just run an operation, an office for the most part.
Let's see what we can do about, if we can readily find information about auctions and get it to this gentleman. I don't know which department is better. But I have a sneaking suspicion that auctions are different than what we're doing today.
Right.
I don't know that what we do today, yes or no, affects auctions. I think that's a separate, there may be separate licensing. I just don't know, but I'm not sure that it has a connection to what we're doing today. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mr. City Attorney?
I believe it's a separate state license, but we'll have to check with finance and all their categories of licensing.
Okay. If you'll contact us, sir, either the planning department or, why don't you contact the planning department? Will, if you have a card or something, get it to this gentleman. And if you'll contact us, we'll see what information we can get, and then you can research it yourself after that. Okay? All right, so where are we? We had a motion and second. Was there any further discussion? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and call the vote. You may record your votes electronically. Okay, and it does pass.
Passes. Mayor, the next item is going to be delayed at the request of the applicant until August 14th meeting. And then we do have one add-on resolution.
Okay, hold on a second, we've got Counselor Davis.
Mr. City Attorney, I know that this is, there's a requested postponement on this matter, but I think we need to have a conversation on it based on where we were. I think last time we had an inconclusive vote. I think I shared with everybody, this is a matter that's real dear to my heart. For over 35 years, I've been supporting, providing, and trying to protect these, what I would call extraordinary children. They're no different than our children. The circumstances that they've been placed in, they didn't ask for them, but they are all different, and I was highly likely that not one of us here can even understand or imagine walking in their shoes and what it's like. These kids, I would have to say, children do have special needs. I'm really concerned about this. I think we need to have a conversation on this matter. I'm not sure if I'll be here at the next meeting or not, and I don't know where this goes, but like I said, this is near and dear to my heart. I think that these children with their needs, there needs to be limitations, there needs to be boundaries, there needs to be protective measures in place, especially when you're in neighborhoods. And I think there's not a one. I call for this council. I call for the staff to try to understand this matter a little, what's being presented for us, what's being requested of us to approve. I implore this council to look a little bit deeper into this matter as well. I don't think, you can kind of equate this to, what does it say, personal care, home care. We know a lot about senior home care because we see a lot of that all throughout Columbus. And that's really what always comes before us, but the state law allows it, but the state law allows limitations, 5 to 6, I believe, that can be residents in one of these homes and neighborhoods. But what we're talking about here is the same thing, but we're dealing with these children, the children that I'm talking about. The same thing. And if we wouldn't do it for senior citizens, why would we do it for children that have a tremendous amount of needs that need to be taken care of and challenges, and especially in neighborhoods? So I've talked to a few of my colleagues about this. The intent was try to bring this to your attention. What we're really doing, there's no requirements, there's no boundaries, there's no protective measures. We're just going to another category in this city where it opens up that you can house anywhere from 3 to 20 children or people in a residence, no matter what sizes. That's what we're doing, is taking it to another step. Right now, where it's at, there's some protective limitations in place because you can only do 6. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. I mean, one of the reasons that it's before us is because our codes enforcement found out that there was numerous children that are residing in this place. And I'm not saying, look, like I said, the state, we're crying for places for these children to be. There's not enough places for these children to be. And there's good people out there trying to meet the needs of these children, but there are also people that take advantage of these children in a heartbeat. And these children are going back into circumstances that they should never go back into. I can't separate that difference, but I do know that DFACS and the people who are monitoring this are overwhelmed, they're stressed, the courts are stressed, and the oversight is limited. So you have these protective boundaries in place. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I've also done a little homework on this matter, just checking around what's going on. I think there's also, DFACS is putting limitations within our community on the number of homes that they're allowing. And if they're going to do that, that's going to open the door up to people going to want to put more children in these homes, because these children come with per diem. I'm not saying anything negative about that, but they do come with a per diem, and there's going to be a request to put more children in these homes. So I ask you to think about this. You do it for one, you'll have to do it for everyone. You can't say no to the others if you do it for one. But in reality, what we're doing is opening the door to allow more children in smaller spaces or in these neighborhoods and established neighborhoods. And I think we need, I say that, there should be a care there, but I say that because we need to have that conversation, understand it a little bit. There's no within this next level of home care, there's no boundaries, there's no limitations, there's no requirements other than 3 to 20 people, young or old. So I think we need to understand that pretty good. And I think that codes enforcement's been challenged with this issue. I think we've heard in the paper some of these issues that have come up within our community. So before we take that step, I just implore this council to really try to understand this matter before you cast your decision.
Would you like it to be an issue in our work session next week? We could put it on the schedule if you want to do that. Or we could bring it back another time, but I just thought since you wanted to go a little bit more in depth, that might be a good time.
Well, Mayor, I'm not so sure that that's the forum to have it. I think that, number one, that I think that our staff needs to really understand. I think we need to get with DFACS. I think we need to get with the courts, the juvenile courts. I think we need to understand what the states. I think we need to understand what's going on in Columbus. I mean, the only thing I'm saying, I want these kids to have a place. But I also know, in dealing with these children for over 35 years, that they need their space. They need their space. Young children are different from the older children. And especially if you're mixing them with a limited amount of space, there is going to be challenges. So I know this firsthand. And I just hope that, I don't know of a case, if anybody can tell me here, the last case we had, we denied it, but it was for I think it was along the lines of mental health care. It was in the historic district. If I'm not mistaken, it was Mr. Bussey that came. And we said no, there was all kinds of issues that were going on with that. But I don't know if we've ever taken the next step to where we're increasing the limitations, and that's kind of what I'm trying to help this council and our staff understand, that all we're doing is just opening the door up to more people in a residence, in this case, a home. It would be okay if it was a facility, Mayor, or an institution that would accommodate that, you know, a much larger place. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about residential care homes that is allowed by the state now. This council doesn't really have any control over that. But right now, there's a limitation. What's being asked is, for whatever reason, like I said, I tend to believe if DFACS is limiting the number of homes within our community, then certainly there's going to be a request and a demand to put more children in these homes, and that's nothing more than warehousing kids. And I don't believe in that. So I just hope that we can figure this thing out where there's some protective boundaries. We cannot just say if we move to home care level 2, personal care level 2, that we can put a max. I don't know. Can we put a max on the number of children in a residence, in a neighborhood residence? I don't think we can, because we're taking it to a category that's already been established.
Right.
That's what 1 is for. It establishes that limit. So as long as I know that these kids are being protected and their needs and their special needs, that they're being met, and these kids are in a safe, protective, productive, where their health and welfare is being at the forefront, valued, then I'm okay with that. I don't think if we just approve this, we're opening the door.
How do you want to
for a
get us
greater
to that
challenge.
next step? Do you want to do it like a referral and get a report back? I just hate to keep, whoever this applicant is, you know, has a right to be voted up or down, obviously. We want council to have the information they need to, you know, to make an educated vote on however it is. But how can we get you the information so we can move this along? What would make you feel
Well, you know, Mayor, I'm not sure right now. I think that you'd have to check with the appropriate bodies, but like I said, would we do it for residential care for senior citizens? How would we handle those situations? I don't think you handle it any different.
Yeah.
These children, you can make the case that they have far greater needs than senior adults, senior assisted living facilities.
Okay, let's see if anybody's got any ideas of how we can move along and get the information. Councilor Baker?
No, I mean, I tend to agree with you, Councilor Davis. I think that's well stated. I share the same concerns. But I think the special exception, when you say open the door, I think a special exception allows us to look at the individual facts and circumstances of each case and approve or deny based upon that. So I don't know that we're necessarily, if we do it for one, we have to do it for all. But I'm actually on your side. I believe type 1 goes up to 6 or something like that, and 2 goes above. I think 6 is a reasonable cutoff myself, to be honest with you. It was just very recently, I was dealing with staff on a group home in my district, but because of some issues about lack of supervision. And the more kids you have, the more staff that you don't have, the more supervision problems that you get. So I'm not disagreeing with it, at all.
Well, and to that point, which I respect, that's kind of what I'm saying. I don't think there's any requirements. Whether it's a 1,000 square foot home or a 5,000 square foot home, you can open the door. Now, defects may have a limitation, I'm not sure. But then, 1,000 square foot home, is it okay to have 8, 9 kids in a 1,000 square foot home? But if you open the door there legally, Mayor, from a legal standpoint, how can you discriminate or against somebody else in the same situation?
Well, I think there's a couple things you can do, and I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney. It looks like he knows what he's talking about. But one, we need to know if they can change the number, or if they're required to do a number. And it seems to me as long as they make a record that's articulable and based in fact, they might be able to make some further exceptions. Why is it coming to them in any event? So what's your thought about that? Can they change the number and limit it to 6?
Believe they can reduce the number. Now, what's the maximum on type 2? Is it 18 or 20?
It runs between 7 and 18.
All right, well, as a condition of this special exception, council can lower that number and fix it somewhere in between if they want to. But each case is different. Like, you may not want to do that on the next special exception for type 2.
Right.
That's why you have the discretion in a special exception situation. But you certainly can lower the number somewhere between 7 and 18.
Well, why don't we've got a couple of counselors that want to speak. I mean, one way to approach
This applicant has requested a formal delay. We really ought to wait on hashing out these details until this applicant can be here.
Okay. Let's not get into the specific details. The generalities, though, it sounds like then going forward for this applicant or any others, when these type of issues come, Rick or Will or whoever it is that's bringing them to us on special exception, then it would be nice to have the particulars of that neighborhood, lot sizes, square footage of, very much particulars. And then if council's going to do something like change the number from the maximum to something else, they're going to have to base it on that unique record. Otherwise, they're going to have an arbitrary standard where they're just floating around saying, well, you're in this neighborhood, which I know, so we're going to do that differently than this neighborhood I don't know, and that's arbitrary and capricious. So it sounds like council's asking for a standard that is particular to the applicant's request. And they're going to need a lot more information about that neighborhood so they can say, this circumstance, this neighborhood, this house, these particular, wards, and this is what we determined based on this request. So I don't think that gets into the particulars, but is that something we can do?
Yes, ma'am. That's something we can go back and pull together. Any information that council so desires, we can certainly provide you with that. We'll go and do additional research. We have, since Councilor Davis and I have discussed some things as well, but even prior to that, we have gone back and started to research this further to see what else we can be doing to accommodate or at least regulate these operations in the community. It is a grave concern to the planning department, I can tell you, in terms of dealing with all these personal care homes. And then the neighbor, and I know the inspection codes had the same philosophy about it in terms about we are actually being inundated with these personal care homes in this community. And so we got to find some way to regulate this and manage them before it becomes an even bigger problem than it is today.
Okay.
Mayor, I would think that, there's so many different variables that you just to try to work out in a work session. I just don't think this is a body. I think we need to talk to professionals, DFACS. I think we need to talk to juvenile courts. I think that they've been doing this for a long time. I think we need to talk with public safety. That's a matter as well. I can tell you what has happened in some of our facilities that we've had over the years and what we've had to deal with, and, it's not a pretty picture, but it is what it is, and you do the best you can. But these kids do need a place to stay, but they also need protection, and they need to be in a healthy, safe environment. And I'll go to my grave fighting about warehousing kids. I did with Truett Cathy, I did with the Methodist Children's Ministry, and we did it with the governor here in this state, basically. And there was a lot of fallout from that, and a lot of group homes shut their doors because of that, because of the warehousing of kids. It's not right. And I know there's a big push now in our city, a big push for foster care parents and homes. But you're dealing with a smaller amount of one child or two children or siblings. There's a lot of variables here that you're dealing with these kids. So I don't know if we can hash it out in a work session. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something you wanted to add?
I think there's something we have to look at. I don't know of any neighborhood in my council district that would be suitable for 18 children to live in a house. And the houses are not, residential housing is not meant for that.
Yeah.
If you have a facility, that's all you're doing. That's something different. The residential housing, you have up to 18 children. There's no way they don't get good care.
Councilor Huff?
Yes. In having discussion with Councilor Davis and doing some research myself earlier today, I'd like to request that we set a meeting with all appropriate parties that he mentioned as far as juvenile court, public safety, and DFACS and everybody, so that we can sit down and hash it out, because I am getting beat up in my district just for type 1. Director Hutchins came and bailed me out at a meeting with about 30 people that were just all up and down my spine. And they were upset because they were not notified. And by law, they don't have to be notified. So there's a lot of interest in this, but the intent of 6 or less, we're having to learn to live with. But more than 6, I don't see it. And I think what we're worried about is once you go to 7, 8, 9, 10, someone pushing that button saying that we're discriminating because we let somebody else do it, and we're not being fair to all of the public. So I'd like to request that we put a meeting together, and all interested parties on the council are welcome to come, and to get the appropriate experts in the room so that we can ask the appropriate questions, and the city attorney, and get all the laws on the table and see where do we go, how possibly to help the applicant find somewhere, if he has to place the other children, to get him back to the limit of 6. It's just a lot going on, and I understand. I thought about it. We had, I guess he said 3 shifts going, which meant someone was there, but 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 10 kids, supervision, that's a lot of people. A lot of people, and what happens when one adult has to go to the restroom and there are 10 children and 2 of them have to go? It's just a lot of things that need to be talked about. So if you would, try to put something together and get with myself or Councilor Davis or any of us to try to get us together so that we can sit down and get people together, and hopefully we can hash it out and meet with the applicant after we hash it out and see if we can all come to the same understanding. Thank you.
Councilor Thomas?
Mr. City Manager and Mr. Jones, I would request at our work session next week, if we can, to have a report from the Planning Department and whoever else might be the appropriate department on what is currently in our rules and regulations, what is currently in the ordinance, what all is there, if there are any restrictions on size or number or whatever, let us have all of that. And then from that, we can go to the meeting that Councilor Huff is talking about with some idea of perhaps, so what do we need to include? What should be in that ordinance? I'm not asking you next week to tell us that. I'm asking you to tell us next week, what are the requirements at this point for a home type 1 and for a home type 2? Could we do that? Thank you.
Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
Mayor.
And we've got Counselor Davis.
And Mr. City Manager, just thinking about this too, I think with the talking about the professionals, I think it would probably be appropriate in DFACS, or the courts may recommend this, to have somebody from the medical community there, and you know, and I'd like to even bring up the Methodist Children Ministries, who have operations here within Columbus, who have been doing this for a long, long time. I think they've got a good insight and good understanding of what's going on and how to make it work.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Okay. Mr. City Attorney, did you have anything to close
Did you want
out?
to say anything else?
Well, we'll certainly have it on the agenda next week, and, you know, I've heard the concerns expressed by the various counselors, and I absolutely do not disagree with the things that you've said. I've watched, not just with kids, but with adults, become a really profit-making business for people throughout this community. And they are popping up for adults and children all over this community, and people have figured out how to make money doing it. I don't know that it's a passion of theirs, that they just want to care for these children or adults, but it's a really quick way to make quick money, is what I see. And, you know, I really think that we do need to do a study on what we have in our community. The comprehensive study that I'd like to see could not be done by next Tuesday. I think we need to tell you if we can identify how many of what type we have and put them on a map and show you where they are. And I wish, and we will pursue that, but obviously it won't be ready until, it won't be ready next Tuesday. And I mean, really, I wish that on those that we do have the ability to regulate, if it's type 2 and not type 1, not anything already in the hopper, but I'd really like to see a moratorium on them until we are able to gather information and know exactly where we are in the city with type 2, if that's the only one that we can control. And so just, you know, what's out there is out there, and we don't issue any new licenses or approval for anything until we have studied it and we have a grasp on it. We know where we are in this community.
Let's find out from the city. Let's find out from the city attorney. Can we do a moratorium? Would we be in violation of state law?
You can probably do one. It won't apply to this person who's already made application, but it'll have to be an ordinance for type 2 that's put on, you know, first reading.
A moratorium is an ordinance?
Whenever planning can get the issue studied initially.
Now, wait a minute, let me make sure I understand. So in order to do the moratorium, we need some sort of basis and a first read and second read, or can we just
Right.
do a moratorium and then, okay?
No, you got to have an ordinance. You really need a study before you put it on first reading.
Okay.
Well,
Because a moratorium, in
If
my
I
view,
may-
is usually not an ordinance.
well, and Madam Mayor, if this council would consider a moratorium, you know, I was in New Orleans last weekend, and, or 2 weekends ago, I should say, and they had a moratorium on any new Airbnb until they get a grasp on what's going on in New Orleans. And, you know, and as we are concerned about this situation, you know, if you don't do a resolution and do it, then those who anticipate doing it are going to go and file a request for it, and then they're in the hopper, and then you can't make it retroactive. And so at least a resolution could hold us until we get an ordinance, but certainly I think the study, the moratorium has to become before you conclude a study, because the study is going to take a while. And so the purpose of the moratorium would be to allow us to get a grasp, and once we get a grasp, we may determine that a moratorium is not necessary, or we're in good shape. But we don't know that until we get there. And so...
All right, let's see. Okay. all
That's
right.
fine. I think we're going to need an ordinance. I think that's what we've done in the past, isn't it, Mr. Jones? Yeah.
Well, you need one eventually.
No, for a moratorium.
Once we conclude a...
No. We need an ordinance for a moratorium.
Well, then I would suggest, can you not do a resolution until we can get a first and second reading?
No, I would not recommend that. This is a zoning decision. You've got to do it by ordinance.
But this ordinance, this is a non-moratorium.
No, a moratorium is a zoning decision. We have done it by ordinance in the past.
Okay. All right, we're getting advice and we need to take it. So we've got a counselor who's called for an ordinance. In the meantime, we will, if we can find an exception that moratoriums can be done by resolution or something, we'll certainly bring that back. But at this point, we're being advised that we need a full-fledged ordinance, and we've got a counselor who's willing to sponsor it, and Counselor Davis. So let's do that and come back and proceed in that fashion. Okay? Okay, and sponsoring, so, okay. All right, well, thank you all for the discussion, and I believe at this time we have a time-sensitive matter.
I've got one other item,
Oh,
Mayor,
okay.
that's in front of you around the table, a handout for additional vendors for legal services, Kenneth M. Henson Jr. and Richard M. Kimmer III. If we could get action on that.
Got a motion and second for adoption. Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none. All those in favor, please state aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, and it does pass.
Thank you, Mayor. And then we're getting in an executive session at this time because of our court reporter being present for personnel matters and potential litigation and real estate acquisition.
And security.
And security plan.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, so we've got a motion to go into executive session. We've got a second. What we will do, excuse me? Yeah, I thought it was made. But anyway, so we've got Counselor Woodson and Counselor Allen. What we will do, they're going to vote in just a moment, but for all of you all, we're going to adjourn because unfortunately, given time schedules, we have to go ahead and do the executive session right now, and then we will reconvene when that is done. So I'm sorry to interrupt the meeting. Unfortunately, it can't be helped at this time. All those in favor, please state aye. All right, any opposed? Okay, we will clear the room, please. Thank you. All right, we are back on we are just out of executive session. It was an executive session on property disposition and acquisition, litigation, security plans, and personnel. Appreciate your patience. We're going to pick back up with the city manager's agenda, and at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hughley.
Mayor and council, First on my agenda is Amnesty Month for interest and penalty on demolition liens. We came to you with a presentation a few weeks back, and we talked about this. And I'm asking tonight that for approval to designate September 2018 as Amnesty Month for interest and penalty on demolition liens only. So this does not include.
We've got a motion and second for approval on this item, the Amnesty Month for interest and penalty on demolition liens. Is there any discussion on this matter? We have Councilor Huff, and then I'll get you.
Will you have it on CCG so the public knows what's going on?
Oh, yeah, we'll advertise it and publicize it. That's, the idea is to get people to bring some money.
Right.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, you had a question?
And we're going to send letters to all of those. We've got roughly 340 liens on demolitions, and so we will send out letters to each one to let them know directly.
And the Mayor Pro Tem has a question. Mayor Pro Tem?
No, he was starting to say something, he got cut off.
You said that something wasn't going to be included, and she wanted to finish.
Does not include property liens or other city liens. These are demolition liens.
Only.
Just want to be clear.
Okay, and so we've got Councilor, hold on, Councilor Davis.
Mr. City Manager, just I guess, is there a motion on the table, Mayor?
Yes, a motion and a second
Okay,
to
the
approve.
motion, though, this is a great if you want to maximize this program, I think it needs to be publicized, not just once, but many times, and giving people enough time. The word, it needs to be talked up out there so nobody gets left behind. I think that's how you'll maximize this program and this opportunity for the city.
Sure.
Which there's benefits across the board, but I think as long as it's heavily publicized and everybody knows when, where, and how to do it, you're going to get the most out of it.
Sure. As I said, there will be direct mail as well. Madam Mayor?
Yep. We've got Councilor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, if there's a demolition lien on a piece of property and that owner does not participate in this, that lien stays, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And I know that sometimes we have problems finding the owners of property, but all of these, we would at least have the person who owned it when the lien was established, right?
That's my understanding. There are 340 properties that we have demolition liens on, and we'll mail directly to the best address that we have.
I know that sometimes Mr. Hutchinson says, this property was the mother and dad's, and they've died, and so we're not going to send it to the mother and dad, obviously, right?
Well,
we'll send it to whoever we can.
That is correct. At that address, we're going to send it, and in addition to that, we're going to advertise and publicize, and so people will be getting information who will not have a lien on any piece of property, but they'll hear about it and know about it, and I'm sure there will be some talk, I hope, and if we have a bad address, hopefully it'll get communicated with them because they live at a different address and they didn't get it, but they heard about it and they take some action.
And it may be that in some of the advertising that we do, we say, if you have a lien and you haven't heard from us by this date, call this number or something,
Sure.
Along that line,
Yes.
so they'll know how to get in touch with us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that concludes discussion. You may record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
Next, I've got a Georgia Power laydown lease agreement at 3321 Buena Vista Road. Georgia Power has plans to work on the Bull Creek substation there on Buena Vista Road, they need to use a portion of our property, vacant property, to be able to do that. And so we are proposing to lease that to them for $10. Yeah.
We've got a motion and second for approval. There appears to be no further discussion. You may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Next, I've got the fiscal year 19 public defender contract. And so you've had a public defender contract for many years that's just like this. And so we bring it to you every year, and it's $2.1 million this year.
Got a motion and second for approval of the FY19 public defender contract. There's no further discussion. You may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
So I have purchases, and the first is course instructors for Human Resources Learning Center. It's an extension through December 31st, 2018. Business Resource Center of the Pastoral Institute has been who we've contracted with.
Okay.
And
We've got a motion and second for approval of item A. Is it?
Yes, A.
Yes, item A. And there's no discussion. All those in favor, please record your votes electronically by pressing green and red if you're a no. And it passes. Okay, we've got a motion and second to approve items B through K. Would anyone like to pull one of those for discussion? C, okay. So on items B, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, which consist of automated teller machine services at various locations, annual software license renewal for VMware, hybrid battery tub replacement for Metra, theatrical hoist for accessories at the Civic Center, repair services for Caterpillar tractor, repair services for Caterpillar haul truck, Harley-Davidson Road King police motorcycles, self-propelled road winder, and a membership dues for Georgia Municipal Association. There being no further discussion on these items, please record your votes electronically. And that passes. And now to item C, which is the River Road Roundabout. Mr. City Manager.
yes, ma'am, we're asking authorization to execute a contract with Southeastern Site Development, Inc. It's a $4.5 million contract for the River Road Roundabout, and this is no doubt the largest roundabout project that we've had since we've been doing roundabouts here in our city. And it's at River Road, SR 219, Bradley Park Drive, and Cascade Drive intersections. And you're familiar with the type work that goes on with asphalt, paving, curb and gutter, sidewalks, concrete islands, stormwater infrastructure, signage, and landscaping. And so we're asking your approval tonight that we can move forward with the River Road Roundabout. It's $4,534,999.60. And so we have our city engineer here to answer any questions that you have about the roundabout.
Okay, we have Councilor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, I plowed through the list of where the funds were budgeted. I was under the impression that some of the funding for this roundabout would be from the Georgia Department of Transportation, and I didn't see that in the list.
Okay, let me just have the finance director to come around and, or one of you.
There is some funding for the roundabout that we have received from the Department of Transportation. It's the FY15 LMIG monies that we've received from them that we've been waiting until we receive the other portions that were needed to actually go forward with the project. So some
How much have we gotten? How much have we gotten from GDOT?
Just a moment.
1.5, yeah.
It's about 1.5 million.
So of the 4.5, the city's putting in 3 and the GDOT's putting in 1.5?
That's correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure, because this looks like on the surface that we're paying the whole thing, but you're telling me we're not.
We're not. It's it's a little bit more than 1.5 million that we've received from GDOT for this
We
roundabout.
already have that money.
Yes, we've already received that money.
Right, it's in our accounts.
Good. And then the other question that I would have, and this may be for Ms. Newman, timeline? Do we have a timeline?
We don't have an exact timeline, but a lot of the utilities have already been out there working. We tried to get them in advance of the project. We will likely, the contractor is currently finishing up a couple of bridge projects, and then he's going to move his crews over there. So I'm thinking construction will probably start maybe sometime in September. We want to give school time to start too.
I'm sorry, you said you think it'll start
Sometime in September.
in September? Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, we have, let's see here, Counselor Baker.
So that's 1999 special purpose money still left over? So but that didn't have to be on the project list at the time. It was for general purpose for roads, bridges, infrastructure, things?
Right.
Okay. We're getting close to cleaning that money out?
Yes.
Oh, it's only been, what, 20 years? Okay.
20 years.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, that concludes discussion. You may record your votes on item C. Wait, we don't have a motion. I'm sorry. I thought we did. We've got a motion and a second. Excuse me. So that concludes discussion. Y'all can record your votes electronically. Okay, and it does pass.
And Madam Mayor, I'm going to delay the Government Center update until next week.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so we got Counselor Davis. Oh. There you go.
Ms. City Manager, I wanted to wait till the end of your agenda, and I didn't want to get into a deep conversation. Well, it's not going to take long, but over number 1 on your list, we talked about the amnesty program. But one thing I'd like, again, I think we need to work through this about when we're talking about these properties and all. I think we need to relook at how we're solving some of the issues and problems and challenges that all kind of correspond and relate to this whole big issue that here. And that's, we've talked a lot about the NREM process. But I think this council needs to maybe look at an ordinance that would allow not to, right now it's just ran through the tax commissioner's office, but possibly the sheriff, possibly the land bank authority. I think we might be the only jurisdiction in the state that is doing the things that we're doing it. And having several eyes on it and several entities working together, I think is a positive. I think it's going to be a good thing. And I think if you find out, you study throughout the rest of the state, that's how it's being used, and it's been very effective, very positive, and it's solving a lot of these city issues that we're dealing, whether it's the expenditures associated with this or getting it back out on the market to generate tax income or providing housing for the less fortunate or you name the circumstance, but it's being able to turn a negative into a positive, something that just sits there for time. In this case, many of these properties, a long period of time. So I think we can do that.
And we've had discussion on that, and we need to have more conversation about it with Land Bank Authority. And you may remember we brought someone down here to talk about Land Bank Authority several months ago. And so, I'll say to you, we've had that conversation. We've had it with Justin Krieg and Land Bank Authority. We've even had conversation with Tax Commissioner, limited conversation, but we need to have more conversation about that.
Can we do that soon?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, we have Counselor Huff.
Mr. City Manager, if you would, check on the Liberty Bragg Smith area.
Yeah.
They came in and cut it, but they didn't really cut it. Some,
Okay.
it's, I don't know which crew. One crew comes through and just really cuts it down where it lasts forever.
Yeah.
And somebody comes in, they hit and miss. So if we could get the ones that like to really clean it up one time.
Yeah, I like those too.
To come in and clean that hill and everything, and if you could, to get the weekend crew that picks up trash to come through Liberty and Bragg Smith
Yeah.
and go all the way around.
Okay.
And then there was also a request that we've been checking on at the end of Liberty, supposed to be the end of the street, but the street goes around by the railroad crossing some kind of way. I guess
Yeah.
they cut it through years ago. And they were wanting to know if it's supposed to be that way, if it was just done that way for a period of time. They had some people parking and other things they were trying to curtail.
We'll
Take a look at it.
She's taking notes, and we'll ask them to take a look.
Okay, and then at Bedford and Lunsford, there's a piece of property there on the Lunsford side.
And that's in Cedar Hills?
Washington Heights, on the Washington
Did you
Heights
say
side.
Bedford?
Yeah, the Bedford side on Washington
Okay.
Heights. Yeah, Bedford goes on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah, but on the Washington Heights side, there's, I think that's Lunsford right there, that first street there to the right.
Okay.
There's a piece of property there that needs to be looked into.
Sure.
So it's getting cleaned up, see whether we need to do it or we need to get in contact with the owner.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have Counselor Woodson.
Yes. City Manager, could you please see if we can have an update about the middle of August at least on the Liberty District with the Development Authority? That RFP hasn't gone out yet. I have mentioned it a couple of times, and the feedback has been they haven't gotten to it yet. And we do have a prime developer and investors waiting, and I hate for us to lose the money because we have not moved in it in the momentum that we should.
Have they talked to the Development Authority, the prime developer?
No. I'm saying that we need them to get this RFP going because it hasn't gone out yet. And I don't want us to lose that developer or the funding that can come to Columbus, Georgia. Okay. We've been waiting on this development for the Liberty Theater, someone to come in and development for years. We had one come here, there was a lot of things going back and forth, a lot of political, so we said, let's give it to the authority so they can get it and get it running and going. It's been over 3 months and nothing's been done yet. We need to get the ball rolling.
We'll check with the Development Authority.
So I'd like to get an update on where we are
Sure.
with that.
Okay. All right, we have Counselor Allen.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be brief. City Manager and I talked about this earlier, and Councilor Thomas and I were able to sit in on a presentation from the Sports Council, and they would like to come to the next work session, which will be next week.
Next Tuesday.
And make a presentation to council to talk about the Olympic softball coming back for the exhibition. And they have some ideas on ways we can pull together some public-private partnerships and work towards that end, try to make that happen.
Yeah. We'll contact them and we'll add it to the work session next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
All right, we have Counselor Huff.
One last point on if you could get us an update on the bridge piece of the trail, an update when that may be finished, you know, the piece we're doing to connect the trail, the Follow Me Trail.
Yeah, in Bibb City?
Victory
Or
Drive.
Victory, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
going across Victory
Let me tell you, next week, I've got Director Rick Jones. He's probably got 25, 30 projects on a list that he briefed me on this week. And I've asked him to brief you on the same list next week that he briefed me on. And it includes the Liberty District Committee and just a plethora of things that you'll hear about next week. So we'll make sure he updates you on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the city manager's.
Well, I just want Director Rick Jones to make an announcement, and that then will conclude my agenda.
Real quickly, Madam Mayor, members of council, you may recall Mama Love came on a couple occasions and asked for another meeting for the comprehensive plan. We have scheduled that now for Monday, August the 6th at the Gallup Center. It'll run from 11:15 to approximately 12:15. We're going to try to keep it to an hour. If you got one of these little flyers handed to you tonight, my apologies. I pulled the wrong file out and it's got Thursday on there, so ignore that. I knew that couldn't be right. But Monday, August the 6th at the Gallup Center from 11:15. And the city manager has said we'll come back next week and give you even more of an update on the comp plan itself and let you know where we are with that as well.
Madam Mayor, that concludes my agenda.
All right. We have now the clerk's agenda, so we'll turn it over to Ms. Washington.
On the clerk's agenda, I have 4 temporary street closing applications. The one for 8th Avenue for August the 5th in connection with the back-to-school event. There are several for the National Night Out Crime Block Party, one on Playa del Rey Drive, one on Walters Loop, and one Broadway. We have biographical sketch of Attorney John Shefthal. This is the mayor's nominee for the Housing Authority to fill the seat that Ken Henson is resigning from. Biographical sketch of Dr. Eric Spears, mayor's nominee for the Circle Commission. Have a resolution to excuse Councilor Barnes from tonight's meeting.
Got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we've got Councilor.
And then we have received correspondence from the Community Development Department. They are asking for the seat of several individuals to be declared vacant.
Madam Mayor, I don't know how we address that, but I called Ms. Denson this morning. She hadn't returned my call, but that information doesn't appear to be accurate. I appointed Mr. Trawick in January, and they meet quarterly, and he pulled up his emails, and he got an email basically saying he had been appointed in January, and the next email I got was scheduling a meeting in June, and then the next email with that criteria, because we looked at who was the sender, was canceling the meeting in June, and he said he talked to you at the Infantry Museum about it, that they had not met. I guess that was before June, but.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but which
number
board
8.
is this?
Community Development Advisory Council.
Huh. Tiny, let's do this.
But he wants to be on
Is
it.
that the one you were talking about? Okay. Yeah, can we pull that item, Tiny?
Sure.
And let's just hunt all that down and see what's going on
Okay.
with those, if we could. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something? Yes. Yeah. That's, and Pam, if you could chase that down, that's block grant money. And that's at least Mr. Trawick. Is that what Thompson's on as well? Right. And Thompson? And I know they meet, so I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, they have to meet. Okay, let's see. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have anything else, or was that it? Okay, and then, so let's see, we've got Councilor Huff.
Yeah, quick question. We had one person sworn in to, sworn in to the wrong board, and we put a request in to have it switched over. Do they have to come back and be sworn in again before they report to the proper board?
I would.
No?
If they take the oath that they're going to.
Okay, just send them there?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were sworn into the wrong board.
Yeah, I know, but she never heard anything.
Okay.
She called me, they had a meeting.
Can you get with them, Councilor
Okay.
Huff, and y'all chase that down?
Yeah,
and can you-
they took care of it, but
Okay.
somehow in the mix of the board itself, I don't know, they
Okay.
didn't get in contact with the person.
All right, if y'all can follow up on those couple things, maybe get with me tomorrow, and we can figure out this, stuff.
Well, I
and
was
get
not
the-
aware of that,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor.
Okay.
On item number 9, this is a resignation from Ken Henson resigning from the Housing Authority.
So motion, is there a second that it be accepted with regrets? All those in favor, please state aye. We got a motion and a second that the minutes of the Board of Tax Assessors, that the planning and the minutes of the Planning Advisory Commission be received. All those in favor, please state aye.
Then on the board appointments, we still need someone for the Columbus Aquatics Commission. On the Circle Commission, the mayor is nominating Dr. Eric Spears for Ms. Crane's seat because it's a,
We've got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
in the Community Development Advisory Council, we still need someone for these 3 seats, districts. Okay. We also need someone for District 6 and the District 10 at large. On the Comprehensive Plan Stakeholders Committee, we still need someone for the District 10. Housing Authority, Mr. John Sheftal can be confirmed.
We've got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
On the Liberty District Advisory Commission, we need someone for District 5. Councilor Woodson is nominating Mr. Teddy Reese.
We've got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
Recreation Advisory Board, we need someone for District 1. Mr. Andre Dye's seat has been declared vacant, and then Councilor Baker, we still need someone for Mr. Green, who has resigned. On the Tree Board, Ms. Cassie Renfro, we need someone for that seat. On the Youth Advisory Council, we have nominees for District 3, District 4, and District 5. Councilor Baker is nominating Mr. Christopher Holly for District 5, Tamil Daniels for District 4, and Jada Colson for District 3, Ms. McLaurin for District 7, and Celeste Dansby for District 8. Can I get a motion for confirmation?
Got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
And that's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Well, that then concludes the clerk's agenda, and it concludes our agenda for the evening. I've got a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor, please state aye. Great. We are adjourned, and we will see you next week for a work session.